It has almost been a year since Technoblade won the Great Potato War, a race to maintain the highest amount of potato collection in Hypixel Skyblock. This war started in November of 2019 when Technoblade declared war in the Part 1 of the Great Potato War trilogy, and by farming potatoes every day for several months, and by means of deception and trickery, he was able to bypass the former #1 potato farmer, I'm a Squid Kid. Finally, the war ended on June 21st, 2020, when Technoblade reached a collection of 500 million potatoes. But just 12 days ago, he was passed in potato collection.
Before I explain how Technoblade got passed, I'll calculate his overall potato collection. Inconveniently for people like me, his collection API is disabled. However, there was another way for me to approximate it. The last time he revealed his potato collection was at the end of the Great Potato War. Back then, he had exactly 500 million potatoes collected. It is also known that Technoblade no longer farms manually, because he lost interest in Hypixel and went on to play on the Dream SMP. A small piece of evidence suggesting that he has not farmed in the last month is that his potato farms are practically destroyed. This happened because of an exploit introduced during the Technoblade Mayor that allowed people to break crops on other people's islands. Techno's farms can also be used as a marker to see if he starts farming again, in which case he'll most likely have to repair them. Since he was not farming manually, his only way of increasing his potato collection were the potato minions. I did the math for how much collection per day his minions were making. Back then, he used 29 tier 11 potato minions with Hyper Catalyst, a Flycatcher, and a Farm Crystal. He also has several people AFKing on his island with a level 100 rabbit pet at all times. I have checked his island multiple times to make sure that he gets constant AFK, and I found several people, or perhaps their ults, that had suspiciously fancy rabbit pets and were AFKing on Technoblade's island every single time I checked. I took all the minion buffs into account and the final number came to about 2,405,000 potatoes per day. This is the formula I used. It has to do with how minion fuel works and how much potatoes a minion gets per break. I'm going to leave a link in the description to a Google Doc where I'll explain most of the math in the video. I figured that if I go into depth on the mechanics of minion fuels and farming, the video will become way too boring. So I had a number of 2.4 mil potatoes per day, but that wasn't good enough. Minions have been changed several times since the end of the Great Potato War. First, when the beacons were introduced with the Dwarven Mines update, increasing the minion speeds by 10%, and the second time when tier 12 potato minions and the 30th minion slots were introduced. Then I plugged my formulas into a graphing calculator and got a precise estimate of how Technoblade's collection was changing over time. As you can see, currently Technoblade is at 1,414,000,000 potato collection. This is quite a low ball, even though I assumed that all minion upgrades were required on the release day. I have not accounted for 5 days of Derpy Mayor who doubles minion output and Technoblade Mayor that has the same perk. Also, when the Dwarven Mines update was released, there was an exploit with beacons which increased minion speeds a lot more than it was supposed to. To account for this and occasional instances of Technoblade farming manually, I'll add 100 million to his collection, and that gives us a number of 1,514,000,000 potatoes. We did all the math for how long it would take to pass Techno with a completely maxed farming setup, and it will take around 691 hours of manual farming plus the same minion setup as Techno. But a madman named Light Exists managed to pass Technoblade as a non with only an 8-month-old profile. He started farming around 8 months ago to pass Technoblade, and he amassed a total collection of 1.636 billion potatoes in Hypixel Skyblock and achieved the #1 potato spot. Using a potato farm of his design, he managed to make farming almost brain dead and basically AFK. His farm is quite complicated and uses redstone contraptions and teleport pads. According to him, he spent several weeks coming up with the design, then testing and refining it. The design makes it so you don't need to turn between the rows and the only keys that need to be pressed are right click, W and D. The redstone in the farm will do the rest of the work, directing you to the right levels and rows so that you don't have to. Light Exists just invented the new best and possibly the most clever way to farm potatoes. He actually passed Techno on April 22nd with 1 billion collection, but Techno regained his spot after collecting minions. After farming for over 1000 hours, he fully passed Technoblade on May 31st and he still has the number 1 spot with 1.63 bill potatoes, beating Techno by at least 100 million potatoes but possibly more. He also used a similar minion setup to Technoblade with 29 tier 12 potato minions. Light Exists is presumably not a macro and has not been wiped or banned by admins. He has a video going into more detail about his farm and the journey to become the number 1 potato farmer, and it will be linked in the description below.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.